Welcome. We want to thank Keesler for their hospitality here today. General Dixon, thank you very much. We're pleased to have with us the Secretary of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, the Secretary of Commerce, Gary Locke, two former governors, I might add, and Dr. James Lubchenco, who is the head of NOAA. Welcome. We appreciate the work you're doing, and Madam Secretary.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Governor. It's a pleasure to be back in Mississippi, but I'm here. We're here on business. We're here to provide an update on the latest information concerning the BP oil spill and the coordinated steps being taken to minimize its effects. The administration has been on the ground leading a coordinated, proactive response since the first day, continuously anticipating and planning for a worst-case scenario. We will continue to do everything we can to ensure that vital assets, personnel, and equipment are deployed and coordinated. Now, this is the second time in 2 weeks I have been to the Gulf to examine the response efforts. Last week I was with Secretary Salazar and EPA Administrator Jackson. The President was here on Sunday to inspect the efforts himself. Later today I will go to the staging area in Pensacola, Florida. This underscores, I believe, the administration's all-hands-on-deck response to this unique and still evolving and potentially unprecedented disaster. We have been in constant contact with state and local leaders. We greatly appreciate and need their partnership. We are deploying boom to protect shoreline and wildlife. We're containing the oil with dispersants. We are overseeing BP, the responsible party, in its efforts to plug the leaks in its sunken rig. Let me give you an idea of the scale of the response now. More than 10,000 personnel are currently here in the Gulf region responding in order to protect the shoreline and wildlife. Nearly 270 vessels are responding on the site of the spill. These include skimmers, tugs, barges, and recovery assets or recovery vessels to assist in containment and cleanup efforts. This is in addition to dozens of aircraft, remotely operated vehicles, and several mobile offshore drilling units. Over 180,000 feet of protective boom have been deployed to date off of the coast of Mississippi. This is part of the more than 100 miles of boom that have been deployed around the Gulf. Aircraft are monitoring the integrity of the boom and are directing pollution response teams to make necessary adjustments in the lines. More than 1 million gallons of oily water have been recovered. More than 253,000 gallons of dispersant have been deployed, and an additional 317,000 gallons are available. 10 staging areas have been set up to protect vital shoreline in the potentially affected Gulf Coast states, including right here. Thousands of volunteers are assisting in the response effort to date. The administration has also approved the use for up to 17,500 National Guard members to help in this effort, including up to 6,000 in Mississippi. Shoreline cleanup and assessment teams have been stood up for Mississippi. And I know that many people out there, Mississippians, are wondering what they can do to help. Those interested in supporting the response should call 1-866-448-5816. That's 1-866-448-5816. You can also go to deepwaterhorizonresponse.com and click volunteer. And again, you can go to deepwaterhorizonresponse.com and click on volunteer. If you are a fisherman, for instance, we could use your help to supplement the deployment of more boom. BP is the responsible party for the spill, they are required to pay for the cost of cleanup. Impacted individuals and businesses can make claims to BP. You can call 1-800-440-0848, 1-800-440-0858. I'm sorry, let me just read this so you get it right. We don't want wrong numbers here. If you want to file a claim against BP for the damages you are experiencing because of the spill, you can call 1-800-440-0858 to file a claim today. Let me end my remarks by thanking the men and women on the ground and at sea in the Gulf region for their continuing hard work. We are facing an evolving situation. The possibility remains that the BP oil spill could turn into an unprecedented environmental disaster. The possibility remains that it will be somewhat less. As Governor Barbour said, we don't want to be Pollyanna-ish. We don't want to necessarily predict Armageddon, but we want to be prepared in advance for any eventuality, and we want to make sure that the federal government, state, local, volunteer efforts are closely linked up and coordinated, and that in the end, BP pays for the cost of this spill and cleans it up. So thank you for the opportunity, Governor, to be here. And I would like to turn the podium now over to Secretary Locke.
Thank you very much, Governor Barbour, for the hospitality and for bringing us here, unfortunately, under these circumstances. I want to first compliment Secretary of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, for her incredible work leading the federal effort. I've worked with her as a governor when she was governor of Arizona and did a fantastic job and doing a really good job of really coordinating an all-hands-on approach to this disaster. I want to let you know that the Department of Commerce, through our scientists and personnel at NOAA, were on the scene within hours of the explosion on the rig and have been working with the Coast Guard ever since. We have folks deployed from around the country, 24/7 on this. In fact, we have an oil response command center that, or we sometimes call it a war room, that focuses on worst-case scenarios, and they were deployed immediately upon the explosion on the oil rig. And they have been providing much of the analysis and the work in advising the federal agencies, the state agencies, local governments, as well as the rest of of all those involved. NOAA has been helping the command center with a variety of tasks, including cleanup and protection strategies, all the satellite imagery for the tracking of the oil spill, weather forecasting, forecasting of the currents, as well as all issues related to marine mammals and the fisheries resources. We announced a fisheries closure on Sunday of affected parts of the Gulf to send a signal that seafood that is, in fact, being harvested from the Gulf is actually safe. That the seafood that is being harvested now and that you find on the stores or that you're eating in the restaurants is indeed safe. And we worked with the fishing industry and local governments and the fishery resource managers here in the region to determine which areas should be closed and which areas could remain open. On Monday, our economic development specialists began reaching out to local government officials here in Mississippi, the state government, local government officials, to begin the assessment of the economic impact from this spill. We've mobilized all of these resources because we understand that a lot of livelihoods are on the line. Not just the livelihoods of the fishermen, but also seafood processors, to truck drivers, to the waiters in restaurants, and the people who work in the hotels. We recognize that the tourism industry may be affected. We want to make sure that anyone and everyone whose livelihood is impacted by this oil spill is properly compensated, and again, BP is the ultimate responsible party. We understand at the Department of Commerce that helping the people of the Gulf communities is a job of a responsive and responsible federal government. But even as we take these steps, we do so with the understanding that, again, BP is ultimately responsible for making the entire region whole again. And it's our promise at the federal government to do everything we can to assist in the recovery, to minimize the ecological and the economic impact of this spill. Thank you very much.
Secretary, thank you. I should point out Captain Steve Pullen from the Coast Guard, who is the forward command officer for the federal government here. We have here Trudy Fisher, the head of Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, and Bill Walker, the head of Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, who are the lead agencies for the state. With that, we'll take questions. Yeah.
Secretary Napolitano, I believe you used the word overseeing BP in describing the government's role in this. Can you further characterize that relationship?
Well, it's at the well